I know that was I supposed to answer you at the beginning that it's a very difficult, and we have to be also very fair towards the Prime Minister of Israel, Bibi Netanyahu, and also to the IDF. We are in a very sensitive moment. In this time, really, my whole effort is to support that this deal that has started now will be finished after the stage that is planning. Without it, it's again, we were coming with what happened last February on the first agreement that we, on November, that we had Hamas, and it was cut in the middle. I may tell you generally that there were some options already to make this agreement. I cannot specifically in this moment, but one thing I would like to share with you, in my opinion. First of all, I think that the Israeli government was not prepared and didn't to stop their war activities against Hamas under kind of adopting a principle that some achievements mentioned, Philadelphia.
I should say, another thing has changed. Hamas insisted that Israel declare it was the end of the war, and Israel refused to do that, and hasn't agreed to do this time around.
You that Hamas is murderers, and murderers are not changing. Even you declare the end of the war, and as I told you before, Israel has to change 160 degrees its concept, how defend its country after what happened there on the 7th of October. You have, I don't have to prove it in Gaza. You see what is there in Lebanon, the others. We have to change we don't have to wait
what do you mean by
and
that,
to
exactly?
buy silence.
What do you mean? Because you're saying that Israel accepted rocket fire.
Israel accepted that it give
the money
not even the money, it give the time, the timetable is playing the main role. No. When we identify like the tent in Hezbollah, and the military activities and the arsenal of arms that Hezbollah has made, and their preparation, Israel had to take the initiative to move towards military operation like we did now. And we don't have to miss 1 meter from the new road that we put ourselves moving with a new train, like I can compare it. And when we are talking now, I think that if we don't have in Philadelphia at the beginning, or we completely taken the north part of Gaza, I think that bringing the hostages back and even declare that we are ending the war, we would achieve the same. We would save, let's call it, a lot of life of the soldiers that continue to fight.
How many soldiers lost their lives?
400, more than 400. And so the moment what is here, that the point meeting between political of and between the military achievements in the field, and brought the government to be convinced because of their thinking about this is it's not the right government. Because we are righters in our a right-wing government. Of course, it's a right-wing, but in a right-wing, we have to calculate risk. And if you see how many hostages has lost their life in this time while we were waiting for half a year at least.
Right, we think of Carmel Gad,
and you don't. When you see the numbers at the end, I'm sure that some of them, more than some thousands even, could be in a situation that we can save their life. So, but I'm coming back to the point I started. The government decided, Bibi Netanyahu decided, we have to give him the credit now, we have to support him. IDF has to build his reaction.
Do you think it was his decision, or he simply, it was impossible for him to say no to Donald Trump?
I think that Trump was, as I tell you, the game. I think that he calculated. Trump doesn't want to go in the first days to a war in the Middle East. He wants to end the war. The question mark will be what do with Iran. This is continue to be the first threat for Israel's existence. The new question mark will be in 10 days, what will be the move in Liberan with
ceasefire, which is due to expire.
Yes, that is coming to its end of waiting, whether it will take.
Well, we're just looking at Israel now in terms of its regional position compared with even 6 months ago. Hezbollah is decapitated, decimated, weakened. Iran is weakened; it's got no air defenses. Hamas, I think, despite
a lot of achievements, we broke the Shi's wing that started in Tehran, Baghdad, Damascus, Beirut, to Hamas. It has been broken.
So regionally, would you say Israel is stronger than it was?
Israel is stronger, and Israel's strength is determined, and its presentation in the Middle East as this area from the military point that gives you points to go to the other direction of the political, and if will be a move with Saudi Arabia, with the Arab model countries, to depth the Abraham agreements, and to see, we are coming back to the Palestinian issue, what will be the future, what will be Trump Palestinians.
Well, of course, Trump proposed a two-state solution, didn't he? He came up with a plan,
yes,
which was rejected outright by the Palestinians.
And maybe I will surprise you, I don't think that now and for the coming years we should support a two-state solution. It's not the time. It will be a great risk to Israel. We can build another scenario or another way to give Palestinians a way of being independent in economical and other way, but we have not to agree to a two-state solution after what we face, and when we see who are the leaders on the other side, we need few years at all. We have to build our military readiness again, and the two-state solution, I think, is going too far.
Okay. All right, thank you. Hostage Square, Emily Francis, are you with us? Emily.
Hi, good evening, Laura. It is such right now. As you can see, there are thousands of people here just taking in this entire miracle unfolding live before our very eyes. 3 beautiful young women bravely. You can't really see the screen now, but I'm sure we've seen these videos of them being thronged by members of Hamas from the Red Cross vehicles into Israeli hands. So to watch this all happen is bringing tears to everybody's eyes. It's just this. I can't even, every time I'm doing this, I'm having a hard time finding the words, because it is something you really can't put your finger on. It's just this overwhelming energy, sense of relief, sense of being able to let out sobs, while at the same time going through the fear of not knowing how continue. Will there be a second phase for those families that are not on this list? So it's this bittersweet feeling of being happy while also knowing that there is still so much more still.
Emily, thank you. Emily Francis there, down with the crowds in Hostage Square. And as Emily says, she's been down there so many times, so many horrible landmarks. I'm not sure you can hear me, Emily. No, it's not here. Okay. You're going to have to bear with us. We are having some technical today. It is a really emotional day, though. I can say that. A really emotionally charged day. Dawn, Romy, and Emily we all know their stories, we all know their faces. Everyone in Israel knows their families and the absolute horror they've been through, and it is really bittersweet. They are with their mothers where they should be. long road of recovery ahead, of course, and this is just the very, very early stages, and we know that from those sickening images out of Gaza City earlier today, that Hamas will exploit this. They will wring this of every possible psychological torture that they can inflict on the Israeli people. They will want to get every single minute of misery that they can out of it. But for now, 31-year-old Doron, 28-year-old Emily, and 24-year-old Romy are back with their family, happy for them. Whatever the cost, whatever the price, you cannot put a price on that. And that is something that we can all kind of take a moment to breathe. But if remember, still being held in that hellhole. That's very hard. But let's talk about what the future might look like, because you've got Steve Witkoff, a very interesting character. There's some grumblings that he has ties to Qatar. I don't know if that's true or not. He sold some hotels or something to Qatar. But he's the one that came in and he's talking to American media networks today about potentially exiling or temporarily relocating a million while the strip is reconstructed. It seems that Trump is coming in here with some pretty bold ideas about the future.
First of all, I think that we have to get used to a new energy and atmosphere, how things are, not the regular policy that we used to see with Blinken. It's a different. He brings probably his character from the... And you see that in two meetings, in Qatar, in Doha, and with Bibi Netanyahu in Jerusalem, he changed the circle, he moved it towards this agreement. So I think that the negotiations inside Israel will be quite different. But we have to, I think that Bibi Netanyahu has a lot of weight in Trump to fit with him and to look with him together about the development in the Middle East. One thing is very clear. Israel and the United States should cooperate to move us aside, to deal about the main threat to Israel, about Iran, and to see in the middle...
Not just Israel, the world. I think we should say Iran is not just a threat to Israel,
yes,
is it?
but the first... And the last is, in the middle, you have the new change in Syria, also in Lebanon, and with the balance of...
It's unrecognizable, isn't it?
It's a new Middle East to organize.
Absolutely. Eitan Dagot, we appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed for being with us on this very emotional day. Rejoice, breathe for just a moment, because Romy, Doron and Emily are back with their mothers in Israel. That is all that matters at the moment. We will continue our coverage here on I-24 News. Stay with us.
Estás aquí conmigo, mirando el amanecer. TNP, domingo a la medianoche por TNT. Arena Infierno C. Auto.
Live in your Aliyah? Congratulations. You have a smartphone? Perfect. Download the Olim app for free and discover everything we have to offer. Booking medical and administrative appointments, bills paid in, instant translation, contractor recommendation, request tracking, and much more. And if you can't manage it on your own, our team speaks your language and assists you with all your procedures in Israel, starting from 199 shekels per month, unlimited and for the whole family. Don't hesitate any longer. Download the app or contact us.
Este verano con 30X tenés 30% off en combustible de IPF pagando con débito desde la app de IPF.
The 7th of October set in motion a chain of events. Enemies are severely weakened, but not defeated, and the balance of power is shifting. This region never rests, and for its own survival, it keeps its finger on the pulse. If you want to better understand, if you want to hear voices you won't hear elsewhere, then tune in daily to Middle East Now on I-24 News.
Por esto el arquero perdió 3 dientes. Es tremendo porque le da con la derecha y también le da con la zurda. Fíjense la imagen. Le llega con la... Eso me parece que... con la rodilla zurda, a la izquierda, es con la que más presión le da en la cara. Bueno, está bien, el arquero está estable, pero yo tenés dientes, porque es arquero de Boca. Sechini, te voy a hacer un pedido en vivo, así como...
Shalom, ¿qué me trae por aquí? La necesidad impostergable. Cientos millones de hispanoparlantes que ahora necesitan escuchar el mensaje judío e israelí en tiempos difíciles. ¿Cómo lograrlo?
Se viene el torneo argentino.
Cuento con ustedes para continuar llevando a lo más alto del mundo mediático una inquebrantable diplomacia pública al servicio de la verdad sin concesión.
Sobre todo, sí, yo creo que Boca lo pasa más de la... Ellos no saben igual, Gallardo y Guitado no saben. Y además, por una cuestión lógica, que Boca el 2024 fue para el olvido. Claramente, deportivamente fue para el olvido. Y el hincha de Boca lo hace saber. Habló Brito, Germán, el otro día de la Copa Libertadores y de la obsesión que está empezando a tener River con la Copa Libertadores. Que es algo que le pasó a Boca en su momento con la séptima, que se ilusionaba, que se obsesionaba, no se terminaba dando. En el mundo River se habla de esta cierta obsesión que está empezando a tener River con la Copa.
Mirá, el parámetro que uno puede tener, yo a veces participo en algunos espacios de Twitter y hablamos hace poco de ese asunto. Lo que pasa es que la situación económico-financiera de River, más los nombres que tienen, te obligan a pensar en que River pueda ganar otra Copa Libertadores. Si encima está Gallardo, que conoce la fórmula para ganarlo, llegar a la final, es inevitable. River en 2022 tuvo dos jugadores que ganaron el campeón del mundo. Enzo Fernández y Puñalado. Es inevitable.
Además tiene que llegar a instancia decisiva justamente para sostener todo lo que trae, ¿no? Digo, a nivel económico. Bueno, ¿se sintieron cómodos? Para nosotros, un placer. Tenemos a todos muy informados en el día a día de River y Boca, Germán Balcarce y Chicho Grossman. Nos vamos, Reto, nos vamos Lujo, que nos ha permitido la cobertura de Gustavo Bagur en Las Vegas, mano a mano con Leo Messi. Gracias, como siempre, por la compañía multitudinaria y nos vemos en cualquier momento. Leo Messi y Gustavo Bagur en el cierre del
Podcast is brought to you by Israel Bonds, the most direct and impactful way to support Israel. Invest now at israelbonds.com. Así que nada, para seguir creciendo como técnico de Boca, se te vio muy bien, se viene un año con el equipo y pueden llegar a enfrentar a Boca y arriba. ¿Te ilusiona eso? Bueno, antes tenemos un montón de partidos, la verdad que es un año jugado muchos partidos, finales fue nació en junio, son grupos difíciles también, sí, bueno, vamos a pelear, vamos a competir y bueno, vamos a pelear, pero bueno, primero pensando lo que se viene que nosotros tenemos. This broadcast is brought to you by Israel's direct and impactful way to support Israel. Invest now at israelbonds.com. Muy ilusionado, con mucha ganas para ir sintiendo bien y bueno, esto es importante arrancar con una buena pretemporada, sumando minutos para llegar a la capitalera cuando haga los partidos oficiales. Muchas gracias, Leo. Gracias.
This is a special edition of I-24 News. I'm Nicole Zedek, live in Tel Aviv. In 71 days in terrorist captivity, 3 Israeli hostages are finally back home in Israel. These are the first images we're seeing of Rehenes and Emily Damari. This is an incredibly emotional sight after 15 months captive in Gaza, and hopefully the first. Today is only day 1 of a 42-day ceasefire where 30 more hostages are set to be returned. Women, children, elderly men. Those are the, quote, humanitarian hostages Israel is getting back in exchange for nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners, many of them convicted terrorists with blood on their hands. One of a 3-phase deal. We are going to break down all of the latest developments on this monumental day. But first a look at who freed hostages Romy, Daron, and Emily are.
Emily Damari is a British-Israeli dual citizen who was 27 years old when she was taken hostage from Kibbutz Kfar Aza on the 7th of October 20. At 10 a.m. that morning, she sent a message to her family saying that terrorists had entered her neighbourhood and were shooting around her apartment. According to her family, Emily was shot in the hand by shrapnel in her leg, blindfolded and forcibly bundled into the back of her own car before being driven to Gaza. The terrorists also killed Emily's dog, Chucha, shooting him in the back of the neck. Emily's mother, Mandy, who grew up in southeast London, has been urging the UK government to press for a deal to secure her daughter's release.
How is it that she's still in prison there after 1 year, especially Britain fighting every moment to secure her release? My beautiful, funny and brave daughter, who I love to the moon and back, deserves to come home, to hug her again, and I need to see her smile.
Mandy says some of the women and children released in the hostage deal in November described how Emily had helped other hostages try to stay positive, even in the worst. Before her abduction, Emily loved watching soccer matches and Ed Sheeran concerts and going shopping. In her honour, fans of historic soccer rivals Tottenham Hotspur and Arsenal, the North London derby, chanting "She's one of her own" when the current hostage deal was announced. Doron Steinbrecher was 30 years old when she was kidnapped from 5th of October 2023. She was alone in her apartment, staying in touch with her family. At 10:30 a.m, Doron told her parents she was scared. Shortly after, she sent a message to her. "They've arrived. They have me." According to her family, Doron suffered from a serious hormonal health condition. In January 2024, she appeared in a Hamas propaganda video looking extremely malnourished.
We can see that she's lost weight. Her eyes can tell us that she's weak. She's probably barely sleeping, barely eating, drinking, and also she needs to take medication on a daily basis, and she hasn't taken it from the day she was kidnapped.
Doron worked as a veterinary nurse. Her family describes her as a compassionate animal lover who enjoyed exercising, cooking, and spending time with her loved ones. 23 years old when she was kidnapped at the Nova Music Festival on the 7th of October 2023. She was last heard from just before 11 a.m. when she called her father.
Once I answered the phone, she told me, "Daddy, Abba?" And I said, "Romy?" And she said again, "Abba?" And I said again, "Romy?" And
Romy was with her friend Gaia Khalifa in a car being driven to safety by Ben Shimoni, who had driven to and from the Nova site saving partygoers. Also with them was a Fiat whose body was later recovered from Gaza. The Hamas terrorist killed Gaia and Ben, and while Romy was on the phone telling her father that she had been shot in the hand, he heard Arabic voices saying, "She's all." Her phone was located in the Gaza Strip. An asthma sufferer, her family urged medical services to help with her ailments.
My sister has asthma. We can only imagine how she's traveling, gasping for air, wherever she's being held underground. Can you understand the feeling of fighting such a basic need? She also has chronic kidney stones that cause her for countless of hospitalizations and horrible. Do you think anyone over there care for her pain?
She was born in Kfar Vradim in northern Israel and was described by family and friends as a free spirit. But was known among her friends for her iconic leopard print clothing.
You are the most important thing around the world at the... I've had enough. You don't deserve this. None of you deserve this.
We have Romy, Emily, and Doron have all reunited with their mothers at an IDF facility right outside the Gaza border in southern Israel. That is the area we are going live now for the latest. I-24 News correspondent Balir Sladin is joining us now. Balir, what is the exact status update you can give us about Romy, Emily, and Doron?
Doron are now in the absorption point, just maybe a few tens of meters from where I am standing right here, right inside the IDF facility. side of kibbutz that also suffered on October 7th. From what I understand, we are waiting for them to actually be taken by the helicopters here behind me from here to in Ramat Gan, in the center of Israel. And from what we understand as well, they are in a good condition, although that one of them was injured actually on October 7th during captivity when she was in the Gaza Strip, and now after 471 days they are back here in the Israeli territory. They have met with the mother said, and of course they will meet with the rest of their family and their friends as well in Sheba Hospital. The IDF has been quite a while right now, from what we from the people that I talked to in the IDF here. They are telling me that they have been preparing for this for a while now, and preparation will continue throughout this 42 days in which they will be receiving not only female hostages, relatively young ones, but also of course the special treatment that of course 9 young men that Israel has demanded their release in the first phase of the war because of their medical condition. Of course here when they arrived they were they went through the initial and according to the sources they are in a good condition. Again, this is of course very dramatic. Of course we'll talk to hostages or returnees from Gaza in this deal, and everybody here is cheering for them. Everybody was cheering also for the IDF soldiers that brought them back in the convoy. And of course this scene will be repeated apparently almost every single week, where we are expecting another number of hostages in the that would be released as well from Gaza. And of course again this is has lots of emotions, not only for the families but I guess everybody in Israel is very emotional today for seeing those 3 hostages back home.
Certainly it has been a dramatic and a positive update that you are reporting from where it is occurring. Balir Sladin will be coming to you for more updates throughout this broadcast. Thank you for the latest. And there is so much for us to dig into as these details are still emerging. To give us more analysts, I am joined in studio by Gidi Greenstein, a former peace negotiator under Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, as well as the author of Insight, Peacemaking in the Oslo Process, 30 Years, and Sef Sherifan Grossman, member of the Forum Devora, Women in Foreign Policy and the National Security, and the former head of Regional Affairs for Israel's National Security Council, as well as Ariel Osran. My panelists, thank you for being with us on this monumental day here in Israel and truly around the world. For hours now, everyone has been tuning in to their screens of hopefully many more hostages will be coming back here to Israel, returned safely. Gidi, I want your insight first, because this is a day that we had talked about for many months at this point, and it is finally happening. But is this a positive sign that everything will unfold as it's supposed to over the next 42 days?
This is indeed really those photos are moving. I was just sharing with the panel before we moved in. The last Friday I was sitting with my family Shabbat dinner, and we were actually lamenting that this is unlikely to happen anytime soon. At that moment, Steve Witkoff was calling the Prime Minister Netanyahu and apparently telling him that tomorrow they're going to be meeting. The meeting that happened last Saturday proved pivotal for the whole process. I will say this is an extremely complicated and complex deal. We just saw today 3 people being released, surrounded by thousands of Hamas people. The technicalities of this transfer are incredibly complicated. This process needs to happen 32 times for us to release all of the prisoners. This is a lot. We're also looking at a deal where phase 1 is actually divided into 2 sub-phases. The first 16 days, stability, kind of grounding up the relationship around the exchange, three exchanges, and then moving into the second phase, negotiating the second phase of the deal.
And this is when
from
it gets
day 16 to day 42, 26 days in which these exchanges are going to be happening in what phase 2 is likely needs in the context of shaping phase 2. We also have to remember that there are already very strong political voices in Israel that are calling for resume on day 42, which means that day 42 is unlikely to happen. I do want to relate, on the other hand, we have clear message from the Trump administration that they're seeing the prospect of normalization with Saudi. Shiri here, to my right, she was involved with the Abraham Accords, with regionalism, basically, and in the deal with Saudi effectively means that Israel will not be able to escalate in the second phase in the way that some people are talking. So there is a lot of issues to be resolved in the next 16 days and 36 days until the end of the first phase of this deal.
Well, speaking about the images that we've seen, even as you're speaking, Giddy, on the screen, our viewers are looking at these side-by-side images, the emotional tears coming out of the public versus the scenes inside Gaza of these Hamas terrorists re-emerging in their uniforms, surrounding in mobs these 3 innocent Israeli women. They're being handed over to the Red Cross before then finally making their way back to Israel. Sharing these images, is this the sign of peace, truly? Because this is the sign that we're talking about, and peace in the Gaza Strip. What do you make of this?
Look, this is not a surprise. We knew this was coming, and I think the international community needs to look very look into reality and see what it is. It is that in the Gaza Strip we have the Hamas organization, we have radicalization, we have terrorists that indoctrinate children. We've seen children with mock-up guns in their hands all over the Gaza Strip, and this needs to change. I mean, obviously they prefer more Israelis die. They don't care how many Gazans die for this, and this is very regrettable. And the way to change this is normalization is not only along the way, it's also part of the reason we got here. We had normalization with Saudi on the table right before October 7. It was about to happen, and Hamas wanted to stop it. So one of the main reasons, and that's one of the main pictures of victory coming out of this. We have to get back to normalization for us to win strategically. We're on our way. The Syrian regime is gone. Hezbollah is much weaker. Iran is much weaker. We have the Houthis, but now we have an international campaign to get the Houthis. I think strategically, if we want to continue this route, this is the way to go. And it's going to be very hard in the Palestinian territories. It's going to be hard in Gaza, and it's going to be hard in the West Bank. I mean, we're not going into easy times. There are terror threats continuously. We just had a terrorist attack in Tel Aviv this weekend, and these terrorist attacks are probably going to be increasing more and more, because again, Hamas wants, and other terrorist regimes and organizations want to stop peace between Jews and Arabs.
So what is the messaging, Ariel, that we're hearing from Hamas at this moment? Basically claiming, I'm assuming that this is a major victory for them right now.
Yeah, Abu Baida, the military spokesman, delivered a speech coinciding with the speeches of IDF spokesperson Hagari and U.S. President Joe Biden. It appears that Abu Baida lives in a separate, alternate reality than the others, because if U.S. President Biden said that Hamas will not be governing Gaza as part of the second phase, that is not the picture that they're trying to portray also in the Gaza Strip. Obviously, Abu Baida saying that the October 7th attacks changed the reality of the face of the region, and also hailed the great sacrifice. They will not go in vain. He did mention a few things that were brought up here in the room. Regarding normalization, he said that that Hamas will continue to thwart any attempts for normalization with Israel. Of all the stated goals that Hamas put forth in their October 7th attacks, that's perhaps only one that they did manage in achieving. He also said that the responsibility is growing on our people in resistance in the West Bank, calling them to escalate with Israel. And one last note, in his speech, he thanked the Houthis in Yemen, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Iran, and Hashd al-Shaabi popular in Iraq. He did not mention Qatar, that has been hosting, harboring Hamas's political leadership throughout this entire war and also mediating the ceasefire. He also didn't mention Egypt. I found that interesting.
So this is the messaging that's coming out of Hamas. Quickly, let's
Turkey,
listen to the messaging also coming out of the IDF. IDF spokesman Rear Admiral Daniel had this to say once Romy, Emily, and Doron made it safely into Israeli territory.
Since the October 7th massacre, our mission has been bring home all the hostages held by Hamas in Gaza. Today, as part of these ongoing efforts, we welcomed home three young women after 471 days in Hamas captivity. Let me tell you about these three young women who turned 24 in captivity. Romy was dancing with friends at the Nova Music Festival when Hamas terrorists invaded and attacked the festival, massacring and abducting young people from around the world who were celebrating peace, love, and unity. Emily Damari, Emily, a dual Israeli and British citizen, was abducted by Hamas from her quiet home in Kibbutz Kfar Aza. Terrorists shot her dog and dragged her into Gaza. And Doron Steinbacher, who turned 31 in captivity. Doron, a veterinary nurse who brought home in Kibbutz Kfar Aza, was still in her pajamas. We cannot imagine the horrors these three young women have endured in 50 months of Hamas captivity. Today, we salute and embrace them and their families as they reunite after so long. We must all remember who risked their lives and those who paid the ultimate price to ensure that this moment of the hostages coming back home was possible. We cannot and will not forget the 94 hostages, including women, children, and elderly, remain in brutal captivity. Our mission is not over until every single hostage comes home.
Right now, you're getting the first freed hostage, Emily Damari, on the phone with her family. Look at that smile on her face. The first time she is speaking with her family on the phone, mother FaceTiming her other families for the first time after 15 months. Truly, this footage gives you chills to see. And this is what Israel has been 471 days now. And meanwhile, as we did mention, we have also seen these massive celebrations throughout the Gaza Strip. Hamas re-emerging from their tunnels, finally finding their military uniforms and parading in the streets as a sign of victory. To give us some more insight on the sentiment inside Gaza, we are joined by Gazan writer Ahmed Fouad Al-Khatib, also joining us from Washington, D.C. Ahmed, thank you for being with us. Already today, we're seeing these signs. Hamas police already back on the streets in Gaza, truly painting this as a victory. How are the Gazans reacting from this news?
Well, this has been an emotionally mixed day. On the one hand, a lot of folks are absolutely of war could be an opportunity to rebuild some kind of a new life, if you will. People are attempting to go back to what remains of their communities and their neighborhoods. On the other hand, what is unfolding as nothing short of a disaster in terms of Hamas regaining full control of Gaza as quickly as it vanished when the IDF went in. And this, I think, is a condemnation of the war strategy that has failed to not only dislodge Hamas, but to give people access to an alternative. I mean, we saw all the young people with the jubilation, and some were just excited about the end of the war. Some were being told to cheer on Hamas by Hamas masked men and others. and folks from 10 all the way to 17-year-olds who have grown the entirety of their life knowing nothing but Hamas control, Hamas propaganda, resistance narrative, and they just endured this horrendous 15-month period. And so it's very depressing and very sad to look at it.
This is the larger problem ceasefire does hold, how to make sure that the Hamas ideology does not continue to brew terror in both the Gaza and the West Bank, because as it stands right now, Hamas especially has been defeated inside Gaza.
Precisely that. And you asked about the sentiment among Gazans. I mean, there are numerous Palestinians certainly behind the scenes now. Hamas are those who spoke out against it on Facebook, on Twitter, on Telegram, that it will be coming after them, who are expressing dismay that they're suffering the destruction of their disabilities have gone in vain, basically, only to return to a situation where Hamas is in control. And so the million-dollar question is, yes, we should return back to the war in the sense that it has, I don't think the resumption of the war is going to achieve what hasn't been achieved over the last 15 months. However, we need a combination of the Palestinian Authority with international involvement. We need to look at opening Gaza up. We need to look at a renaissance, seeds of transformation that are going to take some time to change the trajectory of the territory.
This is truly just the beginning, it seems, towards a long process that we hopefully do start. Ahmed Fouad Al-Khatib, thank you for giving us some insight into these mixed emotions we are seeing inside Gaza right now.
Thank you.
Now, as we mentioned, the three freed their way to the hospital right now, where they will be checked up by medical teams ready and waiting to treat them after 15 months in Hamas captivity. We're going live now to Sheba, where our I-24 News correspondent Emmanuel Onra is joining us live from. Emmanuel, walk us through some of the preparations that the hospital has been taking to make sure that these hostages are ready to be treated.
Right, Nicole, the hospital took tremendous amount of preparations, a lot of care, a lot of detail went into preparing back of the three hostages back from the captivity in Hamas over the last 15 months, 471 days. And details involve a lot of generic medical tests, but things that have to be checked by the simple fact that we are just unaware entirely of the state of the health or what they've endured over the course of the last 15 months. So checking their vitals, their hearts, their lungs, their kidneys, undergoing tests, pregnancy tests, nutritional tests, making sure that they have every single anything nutritional them to be in any good state. So there are a lot of procedures, and we also saw pictures of how much dedicated care, how many deliberation there was in actually choosing some of these things. They made sure that every single one of them had a private room, trying to preserve as much privacy, trying to give them as much, making them feel safe, no overcrowding, not overwhelming these women. And of course, there will be a social worker here in order to help them reacclimate to of Israeli society again, reacclimating, readjusting to being with their families again. They haven't heard from them, they haven't spoken to them in over 15 months. Dramatic day in Israeli history, but also a very significant day also for medical providers who have to deal with something that they have never dealt with before. So there really is a lot of intention, a lot of care, and this is really the first day for the rest of their lives for these first day that there will be this kind of care. So there really is a long road to recovery, and of course with all the anticipation and arriving, there is still a lot of questions as still 94 hostages remain in Gaza. But in the meantime, we are outside of Sheba, waiting for the arrival of these three lovely young women and hoping to catch a glimpse of the helicopter once it arrives here, Nicole.
And we will certainly be coming back for more updates throughout the evening. Thank you for that live report on the ground. As Emmanuel mentioned, this is just the beginning of a very long process for these hostages that are set to be released. We're going to continue to dig into all of the details when it comes to this emerging hostage release deal and the three freed hostages who are back here in Israel. We're going up for 3 minutes. Stay with us right here on
Bad posture. The we spend sitting, working, and even while trying to relax at home is twisting our vertebrae out of alignment and creating strain and pain on muscles, ligaments, and joints. A scientifically designed spine that uses precision biometric technology to perfectly align the back and spine for all-day comfort and support, creating perfect posture for your back every time you sit down. Wide acupressure comfort pads, as well as an extended height back panel for even more support, making it perfect for all body types. Also features a precision wing design that perfectly and spine with amazing ergonomic support that leaves you feeling refreshed and energized even after sitting all day.
You live in Israel for your Aliyah? Congratulations. You have a smartphone? Perfect. Download the Olim app for free and discover everything we have to offer. Booking medical and administrative appointments. Instant translation, contractor recommendation, request tracking, and much more. And if you can't manage it on your own, our team speaks your language and assists you with all your procedures in Israel. Shekels per month, unlimited and for the whole family. Don't hesitate any longer. Download the app or contact us.
Thanks for sticking with us on I-24 News as our rolling coverage continues. 3 female Israeli hostages are fighting Israel. Doron Steinbrecher, Emily Damari, and Romy Gonen are the first 3 hostages released as the 42-day ceasefire goes into effect today. Just this breaking development is happening 15 months after the October 7th massacre, when these innocent women were kidnapped in broad daylight, ripped out of their communities. Doron Steinbrecher and Emily Damari were kidnapped from their homes in Kfar Aza, while Romy Gonen was taken from the Nilstal. Still with Eddie Greenstein, former peace negotiator under Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, Sherry Fein-Grossman, member of the Forum Devorah, as well as our I-24 News Middle East correspondent Ariel Osaran. Complicated day for many Israelis because on the one hand we are seeing these images of these young women finally reuniting with their mothers for the first time in 15 months. Other people are painting this as not necessarily a win for Israel, but a deal that they had to make with the devil. Gidi, when it comes to the strategic advantage that Israel made by signing this deal, where do we stand today, day one of the deal?
So basically, this is the only deal that Israel could have made at this point. We've had many alternatives 15 months, but in the final phase, given the urgency, given the commitment of Trump to get a deal before the inauguration, which is happening tomorrow, this is the only deal that was on the table. To some other alternative. It was this deal or no deal, and thank God there is a deal. But we also have to acknowledge that this is really a self-inflicted strategic setback to the had no exit strategy, no vision for the day after, no vision for the political horizon, no idea how to connect the economic reconstruction of Gaza, which is according with the political side of Gaza. There was no approach coming into these negotiations, and therefore we're seeing these pictures in Gaza where, contrary to the goal of diminishing Hamas and diminishing Hamas, eliminating Hamas military capabilities and diminishing its political capabilities to govern in Gaza, we're seeing armed Hamas people in uniform in Gaza to governing capabilities into Gaza. This is a major setback, but it's also a call, as they say in France, the edge of the guillotine sharpens the mind. We now have together before the resumption of the political negotiations on the second phase for 26 days. Now, of course, these are elastic numbers and they could take much longer. But Israel has, is it going to be Hamas? What's its interest? Is it going to be Hamas controlling Gaza or the Palestinian Authority? Now, of course, the Palestinian Authority is not a very strong alternative. And we also know, it's been a while that we know, that the outcome in Gaza is quite clear. Gaza will have to be divided into Area A and Area B. Area B, Israeli security control along the perimeter of Gaza. Area A, controlled by the Palestinian Authority. This will allow the introduction of the existing agreements that govern the West Bank into Gaza. Again, look at phase 3 of this deal. Phase 3 of this deal speaks about the opening of the borders to movement and goods and services. The only way to regulate that is the Paris Protocol. So what I'm saying is, hope people in Jerusalem are waking up to smell the roses, whatever they are, and they are finally being pushed to create a vision for the day after in Gaza.
We're going to talk more about the day after in Gaza and possibly the Trump effect that you mentioned also that caused this to happen now, and that could also cause it to actually fully see the entirety of the deal. Just a moment, but first I think it is important for our viewers to remember exactly how we got here. These hostages were not just taken and miraculously appeared in Gaza. They were kidnapped in broad daylight from their home in southern Israel and have been held inside Gaza by Hamas terrorists for 471 days since. Now it is difficult to remember the horrific scenes from October 7th in the first place. And there's very few people who actually walked through the death and destruction on that dark Saturday. We're joined by one of them right now, Simcha Greenman, the UN spokesperson rescue volunteer organization here in Israel, joining us from Washington, D.C. Simcha, the last time I spoke with you, we were actually walking through some of the houses in Kfar Aza, and you were talking about that you saw on that dark Saturday and the days leading up to that. It's likely that you even walked through Emily Damari and Doron Steinbrecker's houses, and same with the Nova Music Festival